Allie. Join me as I show you how to use Potomac exclusive Tubelet beads along with some wood beads to create a beaded bead in a pentagon shape. If you need any materials, go ahead and look below the video. In the description, we'll give you links there to get back to our website so you can gather up your wood beads in selected sizes as well as tubelets or other beads to try it out for a different look. Gather up your materials and let's get started. All right, so the first thing we need to do is to make sure the size of our base. If you are not using tubelet beads, you may need to make a beaded bead and kind of try out a bunch of different ones. For the tubelets in particular, which are a 6mm long bead, I'm using the Hemu wood, which is an 18mm round. I'd originally gotten the 20, but it was just a little bit too big, so the 18 fit perfectly. If you're doing a smaller bead, a bugle bead, you might even go down even to the 8mm size, or you can use gemstones. One of the reasons I use the Hemu beads is because we have it in a lot of different sizes, but also I wanted to use some of the paint markers. So actually Nathan helped me with this too. I did a trial bead where I wanted to see exactly which color looked the best underneath my tubelets, keeping it natural, going white, going brown, going black. And then I decided I didn't really like any of them. If I was doing white beads, the black underneath would look awesome. So if you want to do that, that would be really, really cool. I went ahead and also coated one just to see, because these will soak up essential oils too, and it's nice kind of reusable and sustainable jewelry working with the wood beads. I did this one here with just a permalac coating versus one without, and you can see just that little shine and shimmer. Then I had fun using some paint markers, and Nathan helped me as well too, going with a different kind of lighter color underneath, darker for some, and then just a color pop underneath this Sliperit. So you can really change up exactly what you want to do. And if you want to paint, you just grab whichever marker color you want out of your bin. Orange would have looked cool underneath here. You can go with the big side or with the little side, and you just paint away. That's it. So it's super easy to do and to color and to have fun. You can also do your extra beads if you're not using all of them and create a bracelet where it's just a painted bead. So if you want to put little flowers on here or anything like that. If you have trouble painting them, you can always go onto a mandrel or even to your round nose pliers to kind of hold and turn as you're working with them. So I've already painted them 2 coats of the wood or 2 coats of the marker onto the wood. And I did blue for my blue tubelets, pink for my Sliperit, a light purple, and then kind of this khaki green color. I'm going to remove the other 2 so it's not confusing. And we are going to start with our tubelet beads to do our beaded bead. Now, can you do this without a bead in the base? Yes, you can, but because of the way that it is going to kind of fold upon itself. So it's nice to have something for the core. Do you need a wood bead? No. You can ball something up. You can use a marble if you want it to be a little bit heavier. You can even encapsulate a nice found gemstone or something from the beach if you want to, some driftwood. All right, but we're going to be making this pentagon with 2 needles. I'm starting out with the 2 needles, and I have gray dragon thread in the size 8. I want a thicker size because it is a bigger bead that I'm creating. The first thing we're going to do is step 1 is to put 5 beads onto our thread and needle. I have about 24 inches of thread onto that I've burned off the spool, and I have 2 needles, 1 on either side. I've added 5 of my beads here, and I'm going to drop them down to the base of my thread. We're going to bring the camera in a little bit closer here so we can keep track of exactly which beads and what order we're doing. My wood bead I'm going to put off to the side because we will grab that as we get closer to forming the ball itself. You could also do this as a soccer ball, doing some black and some white. That would be really fun. I just thought about that. All right, so our 5 beads are on. I put them on my right needle. I'm going to take my left needle here, and I'm going to sew back through bead number 5. Pulling my thread ends, I want to make sure that they match. So I'm going to hold my needles together, kind of push my beads down, and there is my first section of 5. From here, I already have one of my pentagon sides, so I'm going to add 4 more beads onto my right needle. I'm always adding beads onto the right needle, and I'm always sewing through that last bead that I add. So what will be the 5th bead total in the pentagon. I'm always going through the last bead I added and going from the left to the right with the left-hand side needle. And we pull that nice and tight. Here we have 2 of our pentagons side by side. For this second pentagon, we need to have it start to get into that ball shape. I'm going to take the needle that came through on the right-hand side, that's on the left now, and go through a second bead that sits right after it from the first pentagon. So see how it almost lines up in a row? From here, we have 2 sides of our next unit. So we want 2 and 3 beads that we're going to add because it always has 5. We're going to drop those 3 beads down, kind of move that thread over to the left. We're going to take our left needle and we are going to go through the last bead toward the right side. And that gets us, once again, another one of our units. From here, the needle that's on the left is going to go through the tubelet that sits next to it. Now we are going to add, again, 3 more beads. 1, 2, 3. Our needle that is on the left, again, always goes through the last bead in the opposite direction and pulls nice and tight. Once again, you can see that we're going to connect always to kind of the next pentagon. See that one that sits right across from it? We're going to share it, going over to the left. From here, 3 more beads get added, always on the right needle, and then always taking the needle that's on the left and sewing through the last one in the opposite direction, ending on the right side. Now, this is the first time after creating 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 of my pentagons that I'm going to attach to more than 2 beads. So my needle coming out here on the left, you can see that it actually already has 2 more beads lined up. If you are sewing through multiple beads, you want to make sure that no more than 1 bead is from each pentagon. So here I'm getting 1 from the center and 1 from the left that I'm sewing through toward the left-hand side. And I'm going slowly, but on your YouTube settings, you can also just hit kind of the pause button. From here, I have 1, 2, 3 beads that are in my pentagon to start. So I need 2 more. Now, these 3 beads here, you can see one's from this one, one's from this one, one's from this one. You always want to make sure that just 1 from each. My 2 beads go on, cross my needle kind of over, the needle that was on the left, crosses through the last bead and goes to the right. As I pull now, some magic happens and it starts to get spherical. As you move over, then you're going to take the needle that's on the left and just opening it a little bit so you can see, I'm going to sew through the bead from the pentagon to the left of the one that I just completed. I'm not going through 2 beads because I don't ever want to go through 2 beads from the same pentagon unit. I then have 2 beads that are connected here. So I know once again, I have 1, 2, and 3 more beads to add. As I add 3 beads, I'm going to go in and take my needle and thread on the left and go through the last one of that bead, the 5th bead from the pentagon unit, the 3rd one that I just added. Nice pull, and then turn a little bit towards the right-hand side, and that left side needle now, which was on the right, is going to go through 1 pentagon bead from the next one, and then you can see you can catch right away 1 from the next unit after that. From here, I'm coming out 3 beads, so I need to add 2 more, 1 and 2. Letting that drop down. Get my thread ends out there a little bit so you don't see. So I'm coming out of 3, I added 2. I'm going to take the left needle, cross it through, always the last bead, that's always the step. And then the needle that's coming out on the right-hand side, or the left-hand side that was the right-hand needle, is going to connect to, once again, 1 and 2 more pentagon units. Now, as you look here, you can look and see that you need to, it's starting to close here. I don't want to go through this bead also because that's 2 beads from the same pentagon unit. I know if I go this way, that's 2 beads from the same pentagon unit. So I know to stop here after 3 and add 2 more beads. As I add 2 more beads, the needle that was on the right goes towards the left, and the needle that's on the left goes towards the right-hand side, crossing through that last bead. As I get ready now, you can see I've got a lot of my Pentagon units. It's getting to the point now where I should take my round bead, kind of put it inside there and hold it. That's going to keep it nice and steady as you're working with it, and it helps a little bit to kind of keep track of where you're going. Now this is the first bead that my thread crossed through. So my needle that's on the left here is going to catch on to one more pentagon that sits to the left, and then another one that sits to the left. And I'm stopping there because I don't want to ever go through 2 units. So see how kind of I'm pulling that? Here I still have 2 more units to add, 1 and 2. Let that drop down. Needle that's on the left always crosses through that last bead. When I pull now, you can see that my pentagon is really, that ball is really getting closed. My needle that's on the left is going to go through 1 bead from the pentagon to the left, another bead from the pentagon to the left of that one. So this is my 3rd bead, pentagon. 1 again from the 4th pentagon. So we've connected 1, 2, 3, and 4 of our pentagons. None of those beads share a pentagon yet. We're going to add 1 more bead here onto our needle that's on the right-hand side. That goes over to the left, and the needle that's on the left crosses through that 1 singular bead and finishes that pentagon. From here, it looks like you're finished, but you want to connect all of those threads. So you want to go in and see how these don't have a connection right there. You're going to take your thread that is on the left that just crossed through that bead and go around the whole pentagon that you have formed that you do not have to add any beads to make. So we didn't add any beads for this pentagon. It just naturally occurred as we built the last one. From here, take your 2 thread ends, and I can go back through the pentagon that I finished. It's kind of up to you, but because we're putting it around in a ball, you're fine to finish now. You're just going to take your threads, tie them in a nice tight knot. That closes up that ball here. Nice and easy. You can separate out those thread ends if you want. I have the gray thread, which goes really, really nicely into the interior of the blue bead that you don't really see it. I'm going to burn down my thread edges towards the center. And now you can hit go back and repeat to watch the same thing over and over again. If you have a bead that is really tight and it's a little tricky, what I would recommend doing is, if you want to keep the hole in the middle, as you're going through and creating that beaded bead, you'll want to put it onto something like a bead reamer or a beading awl, just to keep it in place. These can rotate enough that I can go in if I need to and kind of move them around wherever I need to in the piece, because there is a little bit of movement. You can then take all of those beaded beads, string it into a bracelet, just kind of putting a bigger clasp on there to support it, or even just something stretchy to go around. Would also be kind of fun on a memory wire bracelet. I'm going to string it into a necklace quick and show you how to do that with the B-Tech knotting cord, since it has nice big holes in this one and also in some of our corrugated melon beads that I'm going to use to go right up in between. Once you have all of your beaded beads made, you can pick up kind of whatever you want to string. I'm going to be using the black knotting cord, and I've cut right about 48 inches. I have it bent over so that it is a loop on one side and the same amount of cord on each side. The first thing I'm going to do is make a knot on the first, just doing a overhand knot there. And I'm going to make the loop big enough, but not too big, that we're going to just use a simple S-hook to put that on each side. And the S-hook will sit right along the back. From here, I'm going to give myself some space that the back is going to hang out there. If you want to, you can grab a ruler and you can say, okay, I don't want my beads to start for 5 inches or 6 inches. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to take my cord here and I'm going to wait 5 inches for my beads to start. So I'm going to hold it there, grab that, and then again, both cords go through. If you've watched the Vermont summer necklace, you know how to do this. You're just doing a simple little knot there to hold those cords together. If you want to make it adjustable, you can also make other knots here, so you can loop on to different loops if you want to. And then the first thing I'm going to do actually is make this into a double knot, because my corrugated rounds have a pretty big hole. One single knot won't do the trick. They'll go through it. You can use a bead cap or something like that too if you want, and just do a nice tight pull. You can see the tension and the pull that I'm giving to that. From here, I'm going to take both cords and go through one of my corrugated rounds, making sure that it doesn't go over the knot. We are good. Knot after that corrugated round. Once actually seems to be holding it, so we should be good with one. From here, I'm going to do another corrugated round. The more knots you need, the more initial cord you'll want to do. And now I'm going to start using my beads here. So actually, I'll do one more. Keep changing my mind for the fashion of it. One more group of 2 cords going through my corrugated melon. And now we're ready for our beaded beads. And I don't want these to be in totally a pattern. I want it to be random. So I'm just going to pick up the first one, string both cords through. Naturally, it will pretty much center that tubelet bead. After this, we are going to put another bead on. In between our beads, just to give a little space, go ahead and tie a knot. And then on to the next one. Corrugated rounds. Going through. And again, these are 8mm rounds. Adding on our next bead here. And if you do get the Sliperit beads here that are etched, they're a little tiny bit tinier, so just keep that in mind. Going in then here, both through. After each section of 2, go ahead and do a knot. I'm going to keep going, adding on some of the beads to hang down on my fun necklace here. Once you have all of your beads strung, and we decided during a live taping of this during Twitch, if you ever want to join us at twitch.tv/PotomacBeads, you can go in and watch some of these videos be done. We decided on an odd count, green 1 for the extra color of beads, even though we have some 3 more. And we're just going to tie a loop around the opposite side. I did more knots than I was planning on, so if you are planning on doing this style, I would recommend doing, instead of 4 feet of thread, do about 6 feet of thread. I'm just going to knot that right over the top here. If you had more thread, you can do another knot, burning this down or chopping it down with my cutter, and then taking my thread zap or my thread burner. Or you can even take a lighter and burn that down into a ball. I'm just burning the ends so they don't fray. And then you just take your S hook onto one end, onto the other end, and there you have your fun necklace. All kinds of different uses for this beaded bead. You can also do this without the core with smaller beads. We have a 10-year-old video on how to do it with crystals as well, but it's the exact same technique no matter what you want to do to create and work with these tubelets and wooden beaded beads. Thanks so much for joining us, and hopefully you have fun creating lots of the Pentagon beaded bead. It's really fun to paint the beads, to create whatever you want, even doing some artsy designs. Like I said, you could use black and white for a soccer ball, paint your wooden beads black and use white over top, or even use some metal tubes as well to make some silver and gold ones. It would be really fun to see all of those, so please share them in our Facebook group for beading and jewelry making. Can't wait to see your Pentagon beaded beads. Remember, as always, if you need any materials, go ahead and look below the video in the description. We'll put links back to our website. If you haven't yet, subscribe so you don't miss anything from us here at Potomac Beads. Thanks so much for watching, and stay tuned for more inspirational designs.